Hi, my name is Emma McGrattan, and I'm Senior Vice President of Engineering here at Actian. I'm really proud of the work that my team's done to deliver Actian Avalanche on Azure, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in the coming minutes. So Actian Avalanche represents a whole new generation of cloud data warehouses, and let me tell you how it's different. To start with, Actian Avalanche is a hybrid solution that can be delivered on-premise or in the cloud, or a combination of the two. Now, the reason that we've done this and that we believe it's important is that when we talk to customers, we've learned that not all data and not all workloads are destined for cloud deployment. So, for example, a chief security officer might insist that data that is subject to regulatory compliance requirements remains in his data center. So we built a solution that allows you to deploy the same analytics capability on-premise or in the cloud and to provide the ability to bring those data sources together. Next thing to talk about is scale. Pretty much all cloud data warehouses are designed for massive volumes of data, and Actian Avalanche ticks that box as well. But where we're differentiated is that we've also addressed the scale of the number of users that need access to that data. Again, talking to customers, they want to equip every business decision maker in the organization with access to all of the data required to make the best decision and to do that in real time. And we've designed Actian Avalanche to address just that. The other aspect of scale where we're differentiated is the scale of query complexity. The more complex the query, the bigger the performance advantage that Actian Avalanche will deliver over the competition. And finally, performance. We deliver an unbeatable performance, and you'll see this for yourself if you sign up for the $500 free trial offer that we have on Actian.com right now. I always find that I can talk about performance till the cows come home, but it's only when you see what Actian Avalanche can do with your data and your queries that you're going to be convinced of that superlative performance that we can deliver. We do have a number of benchmarks, and if you're interested in reading more about those, they're available on our website. But as I say, I really find that the real proof points that convince customers to make a decision on our technology is seeing what we can do with their data and their queries. So price performance is something that is unbeatable, and we'd invite you to not just do the free trial, but to engage with us on a proof of concept so you can go way beyond that $500 use case. The other really cool thing about Actian Avalanche on Azure is that we now have the ability to scale storage and compute resources independently of each other. Actian Avalanche uses Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 for secure, high-performance data storage. So we load all of the data into the data lake, and then we spin up these compute nodes that can access that data. In the example that I have here, we've got a 4-node cluster that's meeting the needs of my business, the typical mid-month business needs for analysis. Let's say at month end, though, things get a bit hectic and I want to scale up the compute resources. I have the ability to do that with Actian Avalanche. I can scale now from 4 nodes to 8 nodes, and once I'm done with that end of month processing, I can scale it back down to 4 nodes again. In some instances, this is something that you may want to do on a daily basis, right? It may be that first thing in the morning, you're going to do a ton of number crunching, and then you scale the resources back down for handling the standard workload. Other organizations might want to do this on a quarterly basis, or maybe at end of year, you quadruple the size of the cluster. It doesn't matter, whatever your needs are in terms of compute resources, you scale the environment to meet your needs at that moment in time, and then you scale it back to what makes sense for the business. The other area that we've looked at here in delivering on value for money is that if you're not using the resources, we'll shut them down automatically. So you can specify a period of inactivity, typically it's about an hour, where if there's no new queries coming in and the last query is completed and there hasn't been anything new for an hour, we'll spin down the cluster and save you from wasting money. This can be quite attractive in environments where you're not using your analytics capabilities 24/7. At this point, I think I've talked enough about the technology, and it's time to move over to a demonstration. When you sign up for your $500 free trial and come into the My Actian portal, you'll see something that looks a bit like this. I have environments on both AWS and Azure, but since the Azure one is the newest implementation that we have, I'm going to focus on that today. So I'm coming into my console. And what you'll see here is a list of the clusters that I've already created or I'm in the process of creating. So I'm going to show you how simple it is to create a cluster. I simply click this Create Cluster button. I give my test cluster a name. I choose a location. You can probably tell from the accent which location I'm going to choose, Ireland. I choose the number of units I'm going to deploy. So in this case, I'm going to choose 4. And then I specify a whitelist IP address or a CIDR block of whitelist IP addresses. And the reason that we do this is for security. What we've done with Actian Avalanche is we deploy a single tenant cluster instance that's protected from anybody else accessing it. And you have to specify the list of IP addresses to which you want to grant access to that clustered environment. For demonstration purposes here, I'm just going to use my own IP address. And if you're not aware as to what your IP address is, there's a very useful little button there that will handle that for you. And now I just choose the Create Cluster button, and it will go off and start creating the cluster. You'll see a message here saying creating a new Avalanche cluster, and then that will go off and do its thing. To connect to the cluster, you'll need some drivers that are available from our ESD system. So it's logging me in here to ESD. So if you're using JDBC, ODBC, if you want to use the command line interface, you come into our ESD system, get access to all of that, and they're ready to download right now. We have support for Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. Next thing on the list is our documentation, and we provide a link through to that documentation, which covers pretty much everything you need to know in order to be able to run the environment. And where the question isn't addressed by the documentation, we have a link to our community website where you can come in with any questions you may have. At the bottom of the screen here, you'll see we've got links to additional resources. What's new will keep you up to date with the latest features in the latest releases. Our Getting Started guide helps you get started, although to me it's almost intuitively obvious. And then we have a link through to our Actian Avalanche YouTube channel, where you've got access to quite a wide library of videos on how to use different technologies with Actian Avalanche. So pretty much everything that you need to get started is provided here, all very much self-contained within the console. I guess the only thing I haven't mentioned is this status button down here, which will provide you with access to the latest health of the system, like current status of all of the services that make up Actian Avalanche on AWS and on Azure. So now that my test cluster has been created, I can come in here to the Management tab. I can stop it. I can delete it. I can connect to it. And when I choose Connect, it gives me all of the information that I need for the various connectivity technologies like ODBC, JDBC, and so on, as well as specifics for connecting to tools like Power BI, Tableau, Squirrel, and so on. Very comprehensive list of tools that we can connect to and everything that you need to know in order to enable that connection. We can also set access to our storage account. We can set a connection password. And as I've shown already, we can update our whitelist IP address. Everything available from a single interface, very clean design, very simple to use. At this point, I'm going to switch over to a tool. And I'm going to use Tableau to connect to my data set. So I've connected my Tableau dashboard to my Actian Avalanche instance. And as I mentioned previously, the instance comes pre-populated with some flight information data. And our documentation includes some example queries that you can use against that data set. Now, we've got 2 tables in here. There's the on time, which has all of the flight information for arrival and departure delays by airline. And then we've got the carrier's information, which gives me all of the details for each of my airline carriers. I've forgotten exactly how many rows of data are in this data set, so we're going to do a quick count on that. So as you'll see, it came back at 6.3 million rows. I'm then going to do some interesting queries. So the first tab I have here is to get me the total number of arriving flights by airport. So it's a count distinct based on the different airports that I'm servicing. What you'll see is that these queries are coming back in no time at all, right? And I've got some color coding in here to show the busier airports. I think Atlanta is probably the biggest airport in terms of airline traffic in the world, 385,000 flights. All right, so we've got a number of tabs here and telling me all kinds of information. I can represent the size of the airlines with different size bubbles and so on. The point I'm trying to get across here is just how quick this solution is. So as we fill out these dashlets, you'll see just how quickly that data set is returning. So for example, what I just got you there was the average arrival delay by airport. So we've calculated this across 6.3 million rows in no time flat, right? So we've got some really interesting information. This example is available to you if you visit our community site, and you can play with that data set yourself using the tool of your choosing. I chose Tableau because it's simple to use, but you probably have more skills than I do with regards to that. So that was a bit of a whirlwind tour. As I've mentioned earlier, the best way for you to really be convinced of this technology is to try it for yourself. So I really would encourage you to come visit our website and try out that $500 free trial. It's available both for Azure and for AWS, so choose the platform that works for you. Now, to talk a little bit and just to recap, right? So Actian Avalanche has been designed to be easy to deploy and easy to manage, and you saw that for yourself through this very simple interface. We deliver performance at scale, and really the best way to convince yourself of that is with your data and your queries. We've designed it so that you're paying only for what you use. You can scale the resources to meet your business needs at a moment in time, and you can scale them back or shut them down when not being used. We also, as I mentioned earlier, have the best price performance metric that there is in the business. And finally, one thing I haven't touched on at all is that Actian has a very rich portfolio of data integration technologies, and we're actually leveraging Actian's data integration technologies as part of Actian Avalanche. And we provide you with pre-built connectors to hundreds of data sources. Now, the ones that we hear about all of the time as people are deploying cloud data warehouse solutions is Salesforce, NetSuite, Workday, ServiceNow, and we provide pre-built connectors to all of those. There's a rich library of connectors available, so I'd encourage you to visit the website and to learn more about that. So I'd encourage you to come visit us at www.actian.com to visit the Avalanche page, where you'll see here we have an offer right now for those early adopters of Avalanche and Microsoft Azure, where we'll give you free storage for a year. So that could be quite valuable if you've got massive volumes of data. You also can, through here, choose to get a demo, to try it yourself for free, or to watch videos like this one and richer videos with more technical content on exactly how to use it. So please do engage. Take us up on our free trial offer. Engage with us on our community site. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love you to become part of the growing Actian Avalanche community. Thanks for your time.